Before I begin, I first want to thank the videoclerks. If not for them, I'd never have bothered to watch Super. Plus, they made sure I knew what I was getting into before I watched it. Thanks for your review, guys. Anyway, on to this film. I think at this point the superhero and vigilante movies should just have their own genre. Look how many of them have been made in the last few years, indie or big budget. And this one is by far the strangest and craziest one of the bunch. Rainn Wilson plays Frank Darbo, an ordinary guy who's always had terrible luck in his life. Until he meets Sarah, a pretty young waitress played by Liv Tyler who works at the same fast food joint where Frank works. They surprisingly end up married, but it turns out that Sarah's had a history of drug and alcohol problems. One day the local gangster lures her away with the promise of drugs. This smug slimeball could only be played by Kevin Bacon. As much as Frank pleads and wails, Sarah is gone, and in his grief, Frank turns to television, where he comes across the strangest advocate for Christianity that I've ever seen in my life. The Holy Avenger. Seriously, that's what he's called. He also apparently has a comic book series in this movie's universe, and is rightly mocked for being ridiculous. Anyway, driven by these vague messages of the Holy Avenger, not to mention the strangest vision of God that I've ever seen in a movie, Frank believes he's been chosen by the divine. So in an effort to win his wife back, he declares war on crime and becomes the Crimson Bolt. His arsenal basically consists of his car to get him around everywhere, and a wrench that he uses with surprising efficiency. And of course he gets the attention of Libby, a young woman played by Ellen Page, who, like Frank, isn't the most balanced of minds. Actually, next to Libby's desire to beat up crime, Frank seems like a perfectly sane individual. In other words, holy crap, this girl is a sadistic psychopath. And yet we can't help but like her, since she's basically a decent person, I think. The movie shares a lot in common with some other movies recently made, and yet is so different from them. This guy could almost be called insane. That is, if you don't think God spoke to him. But Frank is also very isolated, reserved, and doesn't seem to have any self-confidence or social skills. Turning into the Crimson Bolt changes his life, of course, and we get to watch this transformation as the movie shoots for dark comedy. Super isn't the best movie about costume vigilantes that I've seen, but it's definitely interesting. It's got a lot of things going for it, like the good performances, the over-the-top atmosphere, an amazingly intense climax, and one of the most original opening credits that I've seen all year. Now, of course, it's not a movie meant to be taken seriously, but amidst all the craziness, an astonishingly sane and touching message is given at the very end of the movie. It's just absolutely crazy how they get to that ending.